And we have on standby Professor Yeshau Ango of the Department of Economics, CASU, to discuss this with us. Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good evening. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. All right, how will you assess President Tinubu's 27.5 trillion naira budget proposal for 2024?
Well, my first reaction is that it's a conservative budget, given the assumptions on which the budget was built. Is conservative in quantum in terms of amount because government now has a lot of funds, available compared to last year, because there isn't any more subsidies, at least in petroleum. And that means a lot more money is released for various projects. Now, so to that extent, I think it's conservative in amount. I think it's also conservative in terms of the prediction of the exchange rate, the prediction also with regards to the quantum of petroleum that is we are projecting to export on the average daily. I think on that one we are a bit optimistic. So given the various assumptions, I think it's fairly conservative, and to me, it looks realistic.
Okay, you say he's being conservative, but almost 50% of the budget is still marked for debt services. Do you think this is a good idea, given the fact that, borrowing has been tagged a bad thing to finance budgets in Nigeria?
One thing we have to, first of all, it's not up to that percentage, because if I hear I had the president right, the amount of debt servicing will reduce compared to last year. Last year, what was budgeted for debt servicing was about 11, I think, or 13 trillion, compared to 8 point something trillion that is being budgeted this time. So I don't know what they have done in terms of structuring the debt that is being owed. What we have to understand, especially with regards to debt servicing, is that when you cannot change it in the short term completely the way you want, because there are some obligations that are there that have to be serviced. So that cannot be changed within a budget cycle of 1 year. That will have to be gradual, just like the issue of I mean the budget of last year. Projected that there would be maybe a shortfall of about, I think, also 11 or 13 trillion. Now, this year is about 6 trillion or thereabouts. So you can reduce it gradually. The same thing with debt servicing. You cannot, unilaterally reduce it because there are some obligations that are there, and the country will still have to pay for those or service those debts.
Okay, in relation to our inflation rate and the current economic reality, do you think this budget will have any positive impact on the economy? And if you do,
The
how? How so?
hmm, the inflation is real, especially this year. The reasons are obvious. The removal of subsidy and the convergence of or attempt to converge the foreign exchange market certainly must have led seriously to the issue of inflation. So inflation is an issue, and it's real. It's quite high, and for the country, and I think that too, with time, maybe it can adjust. But right now, inflation is a real problem, and I think what government is doing, and that is why I say they are conservative in amount, is that probably, if you go deeper into what they expect to receive, perhaps they are looking at limiting the quantum of expenditure so as not to, fuel the issue of inflation further. I have not seen again the breakdown further because I don't know, and I hope a provision has been made for increment of salary. All of those will lead to natural growth in cash flow in the economy and may lead to even further, inflationary pressures.
All right, thank you very much for sharing your opinion with us on the news.
Thank you.
That was Professor Yeshau Ango of the Department of Economics, CASO.